Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think.
Welcome to episode 113. I'm thrilled to be joined by Jeremy today. So Jeremy, I know you're a bit nervous because you've never done this before, but I hope you're doing okay. Welcome to the show.
I'm feeling pretty nervous. 113th time. Hopefully I won't screw it up.
I'd like to talk to you about one of your favorite topics, which is prioritization methods. And I know that you're very keen to talk about some acronyms that I've never heard of. So can we talk about, I'm probably going to mispronounce these, but RICE, UICE, and FUICE or FUSI?
RICE is a prioritization method used by product managers quite often. So in my day job as a product manager, we'll use it to decide what features should we work on first. And I quite like it in that domain. So that just as context, the idea of a product manager is it's normally related to software and you've got all these ideas of features that you could build or bugs that you could fix. And you have to decide which of those pieces of work are you going to do first. And it can be a little bit of a tricky thing to do because you've got so many ideas and you've got limited resources with the dev team. And so you can't do it all. And the idea with RICE is to take it away from being a gut feel approach or the HIPPO approach. The HIPPO stands for highest paid person's opinion. And that's often what happens, that if the boss says we should do this, then that gets done, even if it's not the most important thing. And so RICE is an alternative to that where you try and have some data around it. It stands for reach, which is the number of people that it would affect. Impact, which is how much of an impact, how bad it is or how great it's going to make their life. Confidence, which is how confident you are that you know the numbers for reach and impact. And then effort, which is how much time it's going to take. And the idea is you score each of them from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10, and then you multiply R times I times C and you divide it by E. So the idea is that you either are prioritizing really big pieces of work that make a huge impact, or you prioritize little tweaks that aren't going to take much time for the dev team to complete. And you end up being able to score the different initiatives. I find it really helpful. It can be hard. I think the challenge is actually knowing how much of an impact is it going to create, and it still is quite subjective, but it's better than nothing. And you can use data for some of the points if you have analytics and you know that this percentage of users are facing a particular problem. So that's one way.
Just on the RICE method, so just to summarize it, you got the impact, which is I, then you got the scale, which is summarized by reach, and then you got the uncertainty or confidence factor, which you weight reach and impact by, and then it's all divided by effort to give you the final score. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And I liked that approach, and I was thinking about how can I apply that to my own tasks, because it doesn't really work when I'm thinking about just how do I prioritize whether to clean the garage or go out and do some gardening, because the idea of reach isn't applicable there. That overall idea of having a formula and factoring in effort and impact, I really like. I came up with a new acronym, which other people have probably thought of before as well, but I call it UICE, or there's probably a better way to pronounce it. But the idea is that instead of reach, it's urgency. And then the other factors are the same. And what that ends up resulting in, I'll share my screen. I do it in Google Sheets currently, and I'll probably make this into a feature in FocusBear in the future. But the idea is I dump in my ideas of what tasks I could be doing, and then I rate each of them from 0 to 1. And then for effort, I've given some heuristics for myself that if it's 0 0.1, it's like a 2-minute job. If it's 0 0.3, it's 1 hour. And so it's a logarithmic scale in a way. And then you can see the formula here that it's the urgency times impact times confidence divided by the effort. And then I get the UI score at the end. And that helps me to figure out what to do first. Because I often have ideas or people give me ideas, and I don't want to lose those points, but I was feeling overwhelmed by them because I had them on lots of bits of paper. And what I'd end up doing is just moving them to the back of my in tray, which isn't that helpful. Now, instead, they're down at the bottom of the list, which is still like it's kind of a dumping ground. It's the equivalent of in getting things done, they talk about the someday maybe list. These sort of things are basically someday maybe, but it's a bit more quantified for me, and I feel less guilty about it. I know that I'm intentionally parking it here, and it might be that in the future things change and the urgency might change, or I might realize that the effort is lower than I expected, and then I can change them and they'll move up the order. But I have to ultimately recognize that I can't do everything, and I need some way of defining things.
Now, I guess one of the things that pops out to me in that algorithm is the urgency part of things. I feel like if I made urgency one of my major scoring criteria, I'd be spinning my wheels quite a lot, because what is urgent isn't necessarily important. And it took me like almost 10 years to work out that distinction. And I fear that if I used urgency in my algorithm, it will probably make me spin my wheels again. Do you have anything that you use to stop yourself in these wheel spinning activities?
Yeah, well, I guess it's like an Eisenhower matrix. You've got the quadrant 1, urgent and important, firefighting mode. And if I'm there the whole day, then, as you said, just spinning wheels and chasing things rather than looking at longer term improvements. I think it's a good way of thinking about it, that if all of my day is spent on urgent things, that's probably not a great way to be long-term productive.
Yep.
I'm going to be not thinking about the bigger picture.
Yep.
But at the same time, like some things are more urgent than others, and it's inescapable in a way. But the way I'm categorizing it there is, one, if something is a 1, then it probably doesn't end up in this spreadsheet because I probably would have already done it. But it's the difference between, does this need to be done next month versus in 2 years' time?
Got it.
Because there are some things that can wait, and some things where there are inherent dependencies, and I know them in my head. That thing is waiting for other things to be finished first, and there could be a whole extension to it where I add a PERT chart and I point out this task is linked to that task. Some of the more rigorous project management approaches. This feels like a lighter weight version of it where I can very quickly put that sort of thing in.
Yeah.
The goal is I want the data entry to be really fast, and if it's too painful, then I won't do it. I'll abandon the system.
That makes sense. And I guess you're kind of offsetting, like when you're talking about the Eisenhower matrix and there's an importance quadrant or importance scale, you are offsetting that in your algorithm with the impact from kind of, right? Would it be fair to say that?
Yeah, but I guess the reason why I'm not just using the Eisenhower matrix is I think it doesn't give enough insight into what makes a task important. So that's where I like the idea of the trade-off between effort and impact and confidence.
Yeah.
That there are some things where it's going to take a huge amount of work, but it makes a huge amount of impact, and therefore it's worth prioritizing. But that's probably actually not as important to work on as something which is really low effort that will make an equivalent amount of impact. And the confidence side of it comes into that there might be something that could theoretically make a big difference, but it's just a hazy idea and I've never done anything with it before, and it's probably not worth devoting 3 months to it. Might be worth doing a small experiment first.
Yeah. And so the small experiments come in when you have that large uncertainty score, or you've given it a large uncertainty.
Yeah. And then after doing the small experiment, hopefully the uncertainty is lower.
Yeah. I like that. I feel like not enough I don't know, what would you call it, productivity systems or prioritization systems take into account uncertainty. And I only started doing it properly like in early 2023, I think. But I feel like it's been really good for my prioritization as well, because like you said, there might be some things which would have a huge payoff if like you manage to get to them, but the effort is actually quite large and the uncertainty around the effort is quite large as well. And so it kind of blows out to like a really big expected effort. And so it kind of makes it unfeasible.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me a bit about, first of all, tell me if I'm mispronouncing it. Is it Fusi? Fuji?
I was trying to make it sound like an obscenity.
Okay. FUC. Yeah, I like it.
It's the same, and I haven't actually implemented this, but I realized the missing dimension is the amount of inherent enjoyment in the task, because it's going to be easier for me to motivate myself to work on tasks that have some kind of intrinsic enjoyment to them. And I think the reason why I haven't added that dimension in is because if I enjoyed doing the task, I probably would have already done it. And the things here are probably things that I don't have some pull towards. But it's interesting then to think about, okay, if there's this really repugnant task, how can I make it more motivating to work on? And I think we've previously spoken about that in some of our no guest episodes, about tying into the ADHD motivation tactics of adding in novelty and creativity and potentially urgency or body doubling as a way of doing it. I might explore that in the future, considering how much aversion I have to the task currently and how I might be able to tweak it so it's less aversive.
And I guess just to explain what the FU is, does it mean just like, like
fun.
screw this, like.
It's going to stand for fun.
Oh, fun. Got it.
I like the FU as well.
Japanese got such a potty mouth. Oh, gee. I think just like on the fun side of things as well, I've been struggling to find a good way to organize my reading list. And so for a while I'd used Pocket, and I've got a lot of articles on there still. So I used Pocket for a while, but I didn't like how you couldn't sort. There was no like sorting algorithm apart from the date. So you could reverse order the date, maybe reverse order by name. And yeah, I just struggled a lot with my reading list. Then for a little while, I organized it in my mind map. And so basically, because in my mind map, I can arbitrarily order like in what order they appear, but that kind of became a little bit cumbersome after a while. So I just went into a spreadsheet and I just basically had one column, which is excitement, and another column, which is relevance. And they're both just points out of 10. And I find it really good for organizing my reading list. And I think I haven't implemented this yet, but it'd be really good just to every 3 months, just to basically flush anything out that hasn't been read yet. Because chances are, if I haven't read it in 3 months, I'm probably not going to read it again. However, I have been burned by that a few times because I've got a few links in my Evernote, and I just like my Evernote, which I hardly ever look at, but whenever I pop in there for a recipe that hadn't transferred over to my OneNote or anything like that, I'll see something, oh, that looks interesting, and I'll load it up and go, oh, that is actually like this random link I found in my Evernote is like, oh, this is actually really interesting. Damn. And I hadn't like listened to it or read it for probably about 10 years or something like that. So
I wonder if you could add another dimension around reading time as well.
yeah, could do. And it'd probably be quite easy to do these days, right? You could probably just get a screen scraper to just basically grab the content and just count the words or something, right? Or anything is something that you can lower tech.
That's a good way of doing it. Yeah, I was thinking at the time that you would find the article that it often will have the reading time at the top. Depending on where you get it from. Medium, for example, has it. But
okay. But yeah, I find with Medium sometimes it goes, in order to read this, you need to be logged in. And so you log in, it's like, in order to read this, you need to be a member of this thing. It's like,
yeah, and Substack as well.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just the creators that I follow on Medium versus Substack. I find that Substack tends to be less paywalled than Medium. But yeah, have you had a similar experience?
I think with Medium, I guess there's the ability to flag an article as premium and then the author gets royalties from that. Substack, I guess there's often basic articles and then people will have their paywalled version of it where they might have additional content.
Got it.
I'm not really consuming either at the moment. I'm only reading books right now. I went through a phase where I had so many things in pocket from all of these blog posts that I intended to read.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing that anymore. I went through a phase where I was paying for Medium and I would get the weekly or the daily digest of the top articles and I would read them and realize that a lot of it felt like it was kind of regurgitated and relatively low quality and more BuzzFeed style. But I think that's more of an issue of the weekly digest, that it would be prioritizing that type of content rather than content that's a bit deeper and richer. What sort of articles do you find are worth putting into your to-read list and that then result in you making profound changes in your life?
Oh, I could answer the first question pretty easily, like in terms of like what I'm putting into my reading list, because I can just bring that up, I think. But in terms of making profound changes in my life, that's a bit of a harder one, I think. But one thing that I remembered when we were talking about the prioritization part of things was like the whole uncertainty piece. I read that from a blog post that I got from Hacker Newsletter. Have you heard of Hacker Newsletter before?
Okay, not Hacker News, but is it based on Hacker News?
Yeah, it's like a weekly digest. I guess kind of like what you're talking about with Medium, but I find it really helpful because I can't keep up with Hacker News. There's just too much going on. But like Hacker Newsletter just has like such a good, I don't know, this is going to sound like an advert. I don't have any affiliation with them, but they just have a really good curated set. There's a lot in there. And I probably only take maybe about 5%, 10% of the links in there. But yeah, I find them to be very helpful. And there's not that many ads or anything. So yeah, quite enjoy that. So I'm just looking at my reading list at the moment. There's a lot of stuff about LLMs and generative AI and how to use it better, what it's doing to tech and careers, and like generally there's a lot of stuff about the good times in tech are over. I'm not sure if you've heard of that meta trend, but it's basically that a lot of VCs and big businesses were hiring a lot. I can't remember if it was pre-COVID or maybe a little after COVID, but they're realizing that, oh, we've actually overhired. And so they're being a lot stricter with hiring. And sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but there's this idea as well that they're saying, oh, like AI is doing all of our junior dev work, so we're not hiring any more junior devs. But really, if you take a look behind the scenes, it's not because of AI, it's because they're overhired. And they're like, oh shit, can't hire anyone for a while.
Yeah, definitely the case at my day job at the moment. Another hiring freeze in place.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but I think it's the thing about the Industrial Revolution back in the day that it displaces people who are going to do things exactly the same way as they used to. People who are exceptional in their skill set and people who keep up with the advancements will always find some type of role for a while.
Yeah. What is some kind of role?
Some kind of role where you can add more value than an LLM can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. From what I read, it was basically that hardly anyone gets a job as a coder, right? It's usually like engineer, or what would it be? Like, help me out, just like engineer, or like software engineer, data engineer, machine learning engineer. What's another noun for developer, maybe?
Programmer?
What's that, sorry?
Programmer.
Programmer. Yeah, that's right. So basically, like, what I was hearing was like, there's a lot more to those jobs than actually just writing lines of code. There is, as you get more and more senior in those jobs, it is more about zooming out a little bit more, actually doing the requirements gathering and not relying on the business analysts or the other stakeholders, and stakeholder management as well, and all these other things that LLM isn't really that great at yet. And I think it might be quite far off, but don't quote me because everything's moving so fast.
Yeah, well, it has felt like in my career in tech, there's always been this idea of things are moving really quickly and you have to catch up. I think about when React.js was first introduced, which would have been around 2016, 2015. And it felt at that point like my career was going to be over unless I learnt that piece of tech. And it wasn't. I continued working in Backbone.js, which was a really outdated technology at the time, for another year or so. And I learned React, and at the time I was one of the early adopters of it, and now it's really passé and everyone uses it. The way I wonder about it is there's a certain point where you do need to keep up, but I don't think panic is necessary either. There's still people being paid to write COBOL, which is, for non-tech listeners, is a really, really old school programming language that was first used in the 70s. And banks are still using it today to run some of the core code that we have to power mobile banking apps and things like that. They are trying to get rid of it, but it's hard to displace. I think there was an article from someone like Mark Andreessen who was saying that he didn't really see potential for widespread disruption via AI because there's going to be legislation in certain sectors, in healthcare, in education, in law, that makes it very hard to disrupt, and that you'd always have a human needing to monitor the output of the LLM. And there will be other sectors where they don't have that level of regulation, and they're going to eventually have to interact with the healthcare sector or with education or with law. And so there's going to be humans there, but they're going to be a different type of human. Like, I think there's going to be fewer mediocre roles. I think there's going to be always roles for people who are exceptional and who collaborate well and who add value beyond their job title. Like you were saying before, that you can't just write code. You need to be thinking about the business impact and pushing back on requirements and thinking about what this is going to do to the overall architecture.
Yeah. I was also thinking about when you talked about Mark Andreessen and, just like still having a human in the loop and like having not just like letting your AI just go out there and just do whatever. I was thinking about how can I use LLMs in a way that is, for want of a better term, responsibly. And this is a bit more self-centered, which is, if I'm using LLMs to help me code all the time and I'm writing very little code from scratch, is my brain getting softer, or is it like, are these the kind of skills that need to atrophy so that I can do other things and I should just be letting the LLM do this lower level stuff? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was reminded of that in one of the seminars I did for my PhD. They were saying something similar about academic writing, that they are concerned about the skill of writing becoming atrophied. And I think there is a risk there, but ultimately, I think it's always going to be the case for a while that we can't blindly trust what Claude or ChatGPT spits out, and we need to be engaged in the process and tweaking it. So you're not necessarily losing the skill of coding completely, just the mundane parts of it of having to type individual things out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who knows how long we'll be actually typing things for? But yeah, coding might actually look more like reviewing than typing, maybe, as we get further and further into this.
Yeah, and it opens up so many possibilities as well. I was talking to a friend the other day who has really bad back pain, and it was being referred into his wrists. He was getting to the point where to write code was damaging his health, and he was trying to figure out how he could cope with his career. And he is very anti LLMs and didn't want to go down that path, and
Okay.
was learning the voice coding approach where you have to say certain symbols or consonants in order to make it do a semicolon, but it's a way of doing it so you don't have to actually say semicolon. There's a shorthand way of saying it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a much better experience if you just pair program with an LLM and
Yeah.
you can just say, no, that looks bad. We need to change it this way and watch it unfold. And a lot of benefits there. What I wonder about responsibility wise is the potential end of some jobs which LLMs will be able to do at a really low cost. I'm thinking about my virtual personal trainer, who I've been working with for a couple of years, where I do a WhatsApp video call with him a couple of times per week, and he'll watch me as I'm working out and suggest if my form isn't correct, and he'll tell me how many reps I have left and remind me what weight I used last time. And I think probably already now I could get the same experience using Gemini live video mode.
Probably.
But at the same time, I really like Edward and I've met him in person, and I'm not going to end that relationship now. But there'll be the potential for a lot of disruption there.
I think what you're talking about is partly accountability and partly technique, right? Because Edward has expertise. He knows what good form looks like. And so if he sees like your form isn't good, like he can correct it. Now, I guess an LLM can possibly do that as well, because I know with Gemini, you can put it into, I don't know what to call it other than camera mode, but you can basically help it see what you see and it can give you advice based on that. So I guess that could take care of that technique part of things. I guess the other side of it's the accountability side. And I know when I was doing market research for my accountability community, there were a few people that would say, no, it's okay. I've got an AI that is handling that for me. And I haven't checked in with them. This is probably about 4 months ago. I haven't checked in with them again. But my hypothesis is that part of what makes accountability work is the human aspect of it, which is like knowing that there is someone there that you could let down if you don't show up. I don't know. Do you reckon the accountability side in this arrangement that you got with Edward could be taken over by an AI?
Yeah, possibly. I think if it was set up stick style, because the thing working with Edward is I made a deal with him and I intentionally made it bad at my end, where if I don't show up, then I have to pay him anyway.
That's good. Yeah.
And I guess I could do that with a LLM as well, with a commitment contract that if I don't have a 30-minute workout with the LLM, then it's going to detract $10 from my account and donate it to a political candidate who I won't name.
Yeah, because it'll be hard to guess who that is. That makes sense. It's probably worth me catching up with some of these people that I spoke to in market research and seeing how they're going, because that's something like that could work quite well, I think, especially if you're motivated by money.
Yeah, but I don't feel good about the money going to Edward when I didn't do the workout, but I don't mind it that much. I guess it's the thing about having it go to a charity versus an anti-charity.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 2018, I think we were doing something with Stick.
Yeah.
We were experimenting with different ways of the money going. And the anti-charity made me feel really bad about the whole goal as well, because I then associate it with, I'm going to get punished with this. It's something that I actually enjoyed doing in the first place. And now suddenly it's got a stick associated with it, where if I don't do it, I'll be in big trouble. And I think there's a risk there of, they talk about motivation crowding out theory, where it's mostly about if you give someone a reward, then they're going to lose the intrinsic motivation. But I think it's probably also if you punish someone if they don't do something that they actually enjoy doing, then maybe the intrinsic enjoyment goes away as well.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, because I guess the question behind that is like, why are you putting a punishment behind it at all if it's something you would do intrinsically? If it's something you're going to do anyway, then why do you need to put a stick behind it? And I guess the answer is because you weren't necessarily going to do it, right?
Yeah, generally it'll be for things that I enjoy once I start doing them, but
Yeah,
activation energy can defeat me.
yeah, that makes sense. I'm just, side note, I'm just looking at the time. It's 10:02. Do you want to go into the next topic, or do you want to round this one out?
Yeah, we could round it out.
The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. Staying on top of tasks is easier than ever with Focus Bear's new To-Dos feature. Record a voice note describing what you need to do, and Focus Bear's AI will turn it into a structured set of subtasks and automatically prioritize it for you. You can also take a photo of a paper to-do list, and the AI will work its magic. I'd love for you to try it. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think.
Okay, so I bored you with my rice and UIS and Fuki approaches. You've got a mind map approach to prioritization, and we also went on a massive tangent just before, but coming back to what we were talking about in the beginning, tell us about your mind map approach to prioritization.
Oh, when I said my prioritization mind map, I meant I've got like a mind map that actually has all ideas about prioritization on it. So I'm not sure if you necessarily want to go into this.
Okay, got it.
But it's like trying to find balance, strategies, like ways of filtering, eliminating, finding clarity, estimating, things like that. I'm not sure if that's as interesting to you as what you thought it was.
No, that sounds interesting. So it's like your mental model of prioritization. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And in very cruel irony, all of my mind maps have a sub branch or like a meta branch that says triage. And that's basically where all unprocessed ideas go. And basically the unprocessed ideas, untriaged branch on my prioritization mind map is probably bigger than all the triaged pieces. So it is like the irony isn't lost on me there that I've got a whole bunch of unprioritized stuff on my prioritization mind map.
What are some of the things that are in the prioritize branch?
There's stuff like estimation, so what's called satisficing versus maximizing. So that's the idea, like kind of two finished states to anything. There's one where, let's say I want to write a book. If I write one chapter, then that's not a book. But if I can just smash out like the 12 chapters of the book and they're not polished or anything like that, that's in a state where I could release it. I'd feel embarrassed about releasing it, but I could release it. People could get value from it. So it's at a state that is kind of like just barely releasable. It's like an MVP, but in this mental model, it's called satisficing. It's like the minimum amount of result you can get to get the outcome. And then there's maximizing, which is pretty much doing whatever you can to make this the most polished piece of work that you can. And for me, that just makes my brain explode because I could just polish things forever, really. But yeah, so when you're prioritizing, you need to estimate things. And when you estimate things, sometimes you want to think about what is it going to take to satisfy and what's it going to take to maximize.
That makes sense. And maybe it ties into the uncertainty piece that we discussed earlier as well, that early in the project, you probably don't want to maximize because you don't know whether it's actually going to have any impact. But
Definitely.
Once you start getting feedback from people, then going down the maximizing path.
That's it. Yeah. There's also like how to get clarity on things. So I'm just trying to skim a few of these keywords. So I've got like want. Oh, yeah, so be clear on what you want, be clear on what the reality is, and be flexible. So be flexible on how you close the gap between what you want and what reality is. So yeah, there's all kinds of like different ideas in there connected to different degrees. Yeah, it's good fun.
Nice. Yeah, I always respect how you've been able to distill those philosophies or your philosophies of life into mind maps. It's helpful to do that. I think I've got a lot of things that I've had in my head about this is how I'd like to operate in the world, and then I forget them, and be good to avoid forgetting them by having them crystallize somewhere.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will also just counterbalance that with, since I came back from Sri Lanka, I think so that's probably late February. I haven't really been up on what I call my digital guarding practice, which is where I take a lot of these notes and I put them into the right places on my second brain and perhaps cultivate the ideas a little bit more. I haven't been doing that for the best part of like 3 months. And I've been thinking to myself, nothing's really falling apart. I'm still able to put out content. I'm still able to function in the world. So I just kind of wonder to myself, how much value is this digital guarding actually providing? It probably takes me about an hour every week. I will tell you that I just feel good doing it, but I'm not sure if it's like one of those like productivity talismans where I'm feeling good because it's like a proxy for productivity, or whether it's actually moving the needle for me. I will definitely take the appreciation, but I will also just say that I'm actually not sure about how valuable the practice is.
Yeah, I guess the alternative is the good shit sticks.
Yeah.
Not necessary to formally categorize everything, but I do wonder about maybe in the short term, because you still are enjoying the residual benefits of the practice. Maybe in a year's time, you'll be having writer's block and unable to come up with new original content because of the lack of the practice.
That's a good point. And you know what? Like, also, I literally have on my screen now as like what I was talking about when I was talking you through the prioritization mind map was a product of that, like probably years and years of that digital gardening. So yeah, like you said, residual. It's hard to say with these things, isn't it? That's one of the wicked problems of habits and stuff like that. Sometimes you stop doing something and it's like going, I'm not really sure what the benefit was. But yeah, you've been doing it for years and years and years and you've got the momentum of that. For better or worse.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we'll leave you with that to consider whether your own practices will lead to long-term benefits, or consider what would happen if you dropped them. Have a great week, and we'll be back with another guest episode shortly.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.